way back on Mathematic 2. The game actually got to name them. Big Boutte is a highling cleric that we found in the game. It's a good name. And the fact that he has 69 hit points is a coincidence, but it's still a pretty funny coincidence. The thief entered the code. Because of your superior intellect and diligence, you have saved Kron and all of its warrants. This ship, created by the ancients, is a grand experiment designed to populate this distant world. Prepare to beam down in Might and Magic 3. It's here, on the floor. I didn't see it. Thank you, my friends. You have banished chaos and rejected the false path of uncompromising order. Under the weight of the evidence and from the skilled pressure tactics of your lawyer, Lucas breaks down and admits to their crime. Congratulations, Ace. I think we're having a real moment here. I've changed my mind. I can't give her up. You can have your money back. How could I sell something so dear? Then again, a deal's a deal, right? Right? Catch you later. Good luck. Enjoy. I'm out of here. Let's pick up the bottle of grog here. Pick up the root beer. Use the root beer with the jug. Apparently root beer works very well. We get to see an instant replay. And a view from the blimp as well. I wonder what would happen if I tore the leg off this thing. Ark.
You have a resume. Madre de Dios, es el Puyo Diablo.
Man, I'm ready for you.
Yeah. Here it goes.
Enter visualization request.
Let's try it in the other order.
Subject code accepted. 6452331 recognized. Beginning message.
Grand experiment of the ancients to use the technology of elemental manipulation to create a completely viable ecological and social microcosm. This microcosm was then to be transported to a distant biosphere, Terra, to supplant its indigenous ecosystem. The need was acknowledged for a central controlling unit capable of compensating for expected anomalies.
Well struck. That looks like a fatal blow.
Yeah, die.
My death will not save you from our wrath.
Are you going to plug me into Link, sir? I hope you know what you're doing.
have no idea what we're doing. But,
Something is happening, I think. Yes, I'm gaining control. I found my destiny, Mr. Foster.
goals in the middle. Perhaps we didn't even need to know that. The yellow crystal is over on the left side. And the blue one is on the right side. Switch to Annie. Have her pull the lever to close the trapdoor. Have her push the switch on this side. Switch to Zack. Have him push the switch on this side. On our way through this wall. Another mini boss. Good evening, people, and welcome in. I was pretty late preparing to stream. I wasn't even sure I was going to actually stream tonight. Cheers, Panther, for the sub. 23 months.
Honda PRG just resubscribed for 23 months, got the notification and hopping in for a while before going to bed, smiley face.
Thanks a lot, man. Much appreciated. And, I wasn't actually going to stream tonight. We were originally going to the Westman Islands over the weekend to help the puffins find their way back to their homes. But the puffins aren't there in any significant numbers, so we decided to cancel the trip pretty much last moment. So I'm streaming tonight and tomorrow. Sorry to hear that, Panther. Already done one bout and all of the family has had it at least once, although not all at the same time. Yeah, it's not particularly pleasant at all. I only really had 2 pretty bad days, but it took me a while to recover. I was pretty tired for a decent amount of time afterwards. So certainly wasn't great. Since I really didn't, since we finished Summit Max last week, I really didn't have a game prepared because I didn't think I would be streaming. So we've been streaming this or trying to finish this game on the Amiga for a long time now, Cruise for the Corpse. I decided it was just high time to actually wrap this one up and finish it. So we do go back to the Amiga streams on Wednesdays, which we might. At least we can start streaming the games that I want to stream instead of being stuck with this game forever. I think this might be the 3rd or 4th attempt to actually finish it up. I think it's high time to get that done. But as per usual, I'm just going to start from the very beginning because some weird bug which is that the game refuses to let us save after we passed something like midpoint of the game or 25% of the game. Since it's been so long since we streamed this game, I've basically written down what is essentially a walkthrough of the game. We were near the end last time. Just going to start from the beginning and play through the entire game. Hope you guys enjoy it. Switch over to the game display. I'm fairly sure this is a bug. Can't possibly be that someone deliberately designed this game this way. Backstory is to this is that we're a detective. There's been a murder on board. Grumpy old rich man has been murdered, and we're here to try to solve the case. Got it done. Like that. Hold it. And then eat it. Some words have been quickly scribbled on it. We must resolve this problem tonight, 8 p.m. at the bar. It's a matter of life and death. Signed, F. Each time we progress in the game, the clock moves onwards. Simple that we've been able to do something. Thinking we try to save now after every time the clock moves, or at least semi-regularly, to see if when it breaks. I'm curious because it went. Can we map? Cheers for
48
taking RAM.
Cram just resubscribed for 8 months. Hey everyone. Look out, the Cram is here.
Welcome in for the AK RAM. And hello, Gleaser, welcome in. You guys are doing well this fine Friday evening. I wasn't actually going to stream tonight, but planned trip to the Westmount Islands got cancelled last minute, so figured we'd finish cruise for the cops finally. It's been a long time since we streamed this game. The smoking lounge, kitchen, that's the bar, that's the bar. I've started this game more than a few times. This weird little bug. I remember it very well. It happened last night. Father Fabiani arrived first, and Mr. Vulcan and Charlton sat right here. My father looked furious, but they spoke so low that I couldn't hear a thing. They left and thank you for the information. I think I'll ask Father Fabian questions. 1 minute, Inspector. First, father forgot his mass book. Do I remember anything about the plot? Yeah, I still remember most of the plot. save again. I remember most of the plot. We've played through this entire game at least 3 times now. So it's been a long time. To Father Fabiani's room here. His secret little suitcase is here. We'll pull it from under the table. And up. Sword, playing cards, dice, or wheel and chips. This suitcase is a real casino on wheels. Prayer book. Going through the prayer book, you find there. Take the letter. Read the letter. Father Fabiani have received sensitive information about you. These rumors are proven through our entire brotherhood will be praised. If that happens, we will have no choice but to take severe action against you. Egyptian. Time will advance. Save. Now, Fabiani is to be kitchen or dining room, picking out at the back his book. Son's a letter. Morning, my son, I came from the bar and the waiter told me that you have my prayer book. How scatterbrained I am at my age, the memory starts to go. May I help you, Inspector? Talk to him right now. Time passes yet again. We will save. Here we go. Up attack. Chat to Suzanne. Here's the conversation with her. Can I help you, Inspector? Father Fabiani is a good man. Father Fabiani told me that he had some troubles, but I didn't that they could be so serious. Inspector, I'm afraid that there are some nasty people who are close by, so others. He's the priest's friend. Case. Knows he's a gambler, but he didn't really talk to herself. Very good friend of the Karapuchin family. Talked to her about Hector, the rich man's butler. Hector was Nicholas's dear friend. He's a loyal servant, isn't he? Anything bar, sleeping. That poor Hector seemed shocked when he told me the news. Rightly surprised by Daphne's coldness when she learned about her father's death. Daphne is daughter of the man. As is safe. Yes. becomes worse with his lawyer. Walking. What can I do for you, Inspector? My solicitor's office takes care of Nicholas' business. Talk about Father Fabiani is an old friend, family, fraternity. Told me matter. Yet you're well informed, Inspector. Indeed, Father Fabiani doesn't ever leave his suitcase, but looking like a saying gambler. Father is a gambler. I've sometimes big one. Suzanne likes to stick her nose into other people's business, and believe me, the gossip she picks up. Okay, Suzanne, part of our entourage, a close friend of Father Fabiani. They've known each other for a long time, and you know, always stuck up for lost causes. Hector is Nicholas's butler and his right arm. For Nicholas, him they see at the close plane. I was in the moment. Did anything better or claims to know nothing about the meeting bar. Nicholas wasn't a saint, but I don't see who would get back at him. In any case, Hector must be the one who's unhappy. I've never seen sell a servant. Ashes again. Play the game again. An hour into the game. In game time. The main deck. Offside bow. Uh-huh. The cat. You have a few questions. Sorry, Senior Inspector. Daphne is not well enough to be able to answer your questions at the moment. Won't I met you? Also, very good. I will question Daphne later on. Now that you is the boyfriend of Daphne, old man, daughter. Daniel Logan is a tough hombre, I think. Daphne's amigo, I hope so. About the father, Padre Fabiani, he's a very nice old man. Letter about his stories. Dan and Padre Fabiano saw each other often for a time. Well, Padre had not been a priest, I would have sworn there was something between them. I heard that Susan is under medical treatment, and Padre is in charge of watching over her. Insisted that Susan be invited on. Doesn't know anything about the case or his vices. Susan is very kind. The poor thing is in a very delicate health. That last year he spent several months in hospital. And Padre Fabiani saw each other often. Time. Really know what she had, you know, talking to her. I've lasted 5 months of age. And what did the sender kind of begun? Hector followed Delsenio Karabujan. Where are terrible news? Better port Daphne. Here you are, Inspector. Even I was completely abashed. Delsenio Karabujan has always been nice to me. Was all family, of course, there was a backup, but this one. You, sir. What? Save. Yes. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. Just very quickly getting back to where we were in this game. I think we were pretty close to the end when the died last time, and of course we couldn't load the game. Do my notes say I should go now to the smoking lounge? Right. Paper there. Chair. Receipt for a diamond Cartier bracelet costing $3,000 to Thomas Logan. Waiting for your big neck and jaw to stop hurting. Biota skin. Weapon 48k RAM. Get an infection. One of your teeth. Absolutely sucks. I remember one of my molars got infected once. That was a terrible experience. Dining room again. Okay. Maybe it isn't. If anything is really swollen around that area, it tends to push the teeth as well. Doesn't necessarily need to be in that area to hurt there. Just very delicate, and if anything is pushing on them, it hurts quite a bit. Better. Other options we have. About Tom. Excuse me for being frank. Frank, I thought he was Fabiani. For me, Tom is an opportunist. He's young and brilliant. Of this. Where this has brought Rose. Breakdown after another. Just ruined life. Rose's wife. Rose was captivated by Tom. Bright boy. Appeared in her life. Her head. Liked it or not. Rose's father finally gave his consent to their marriage, maybe with the hope that his daughter would forget being married. Started going out, leaving his wife to run after the skirt that appeared. Nice boy, but he's not very. Dan is a brave girl. Dan really wanted to go on the cruise. Wasn't very enthusiastic, and this did he finally accepted. Dan and him got on. Susanna and Nicholas were like cat and dog, undoubtedly because they had stand out to him. Spent the time arguing yesterday. Six months ago that the poor girl had to try out, and despite this, she's still drinking. but forgive her. Sandra's a good girl, Inspector. Unfortunately, I had to want to stop herself from having a second. I was going back to my cabin and came upon them as they were arguing. And B. Colleague. For Tom, not surprising that he has financial problems. That's to do with the Cartier receipt that we saw or found. Time passes. We shall save again. Once more. To say once more. Hold. Are there multiple endings to this game, Bargain Bin? The best ending to this game would be to actually finish it, in my opinion. That are there, of course, we find San. Talk to her about Tom. Tom is Nicholas's solicitor. He's not a forward fellow. Financial difficulties don't surprise her, and he deserves it. Honestly, think that Rose did not make a. Don't you? Little to say, Inspector, who is son of a Spanish industrial family. His parents' wealthy situation allows him to lead an idle life. Says that he's a car driver, and I suppose he's a bullet. He was crazy about race cars, but I'm afraid that he was entitled to be more business. Heard they were in the textile business, but I'm quite sure. Certain is that they have rightfully fortune. Julio's in a secure position. He decides to get involved in something more serious than his race cars. This fellow will find himself at the head of a veritable. Ages. Tell you the truth, I didn't like him very much, and the feeling was regarding the relationship. Talk about something else than her confinement, alcoholism, other than her dispute with Nicholas. See what he has to say about the. Again. Ben, see. Save. And yet another chapter. Game. Oh. Julio's cabin. This side of the boat. Here, right? Yeah. Somewhere. Golf bag. Or. Drop this key. Save with it. Back to Nicholas office. desk. Beautiful top desk. Curtain. Desk. Is in here. Open. The bracelet. Have the receipt. Else that we need. Oh. Issues on the clasp of the bracelet. RJ. Thank you note. Again. Dear Nicholas, it's with great emotion that last Sunday I received the testimony of your immense generosity. That's from me on behalf of my parishioners here in infinite gratitude. Servant Father Fabiani. Yeah, you take it easy. 48k RAM. Get rid of this thing. Enjoy the rest of your night as much as is possible. Sleep well. It could be from the future. One of the Delphine games was Future Wars, so just a natural continuation of that series. See if we can save our progress. Can. Now 10:30. Go to the port side bow. Back again. Walk this way, I think. Two thrones. Oh, I think I got this in the wrong order when I wrote it down. Don't seem to be able to trigger. There's supposed to be a conversation on the deck. It's supposed to be somewhere else. Probably here. Dining room. Pawns. At least they have a little bit of humor about themselves. It's overthink. These engagement invitations. The old man already planned the wedding of his daughter to Julio, but Mrs. Rebecca Vivian Johnson and her husband, Mr. Nicholas Karabuchan, have the pleasure to request the honor of your presence at the engagement of their daughter Daphne to Julio Esperanza Sokalambada. As you see now, can no longer save. Why is a mystery to me. At this point, now we can save. Okay. Save now then. It's something very buggy about this whole save game. We can go back to the deck, portside bow. Where it triggers the conversation. Come on, Tom, don't be a fool. Someone see us. Rebecca, someone coming. How unfortunate. Okay. Up. Map time. Use. Use del map. Time to hit the laundry room. What's this little laundry basket? And the bathrobe. Examining the bathrobe, you notice the initials A. Searching through the bathrobe's pocket, you find a necklace. This. Oh, 11. No, it appears to be very unusually fast, doesn't it? Might have forgotten to turn off the CPU cache. Perhaps it's wise to do that now. How would you say it? Well, I will trust that the save actually works. Well, on S. Well, instead. You know, cache. I always used to do this because it ran a little bit fast. What about it? Sort of suggests that the animation is just on a busy loop. So when you have a very fast CPU, it just plays at maximum speed. Hope that the save works. It skipped the intro. Game. Okay, back here. Still decently fast, actually. Not quite as fast as it was. Let's go to the main deck. Portside bow. Father Fabian cabin. Doesn't like it when you just walk in the cabin. Pretty normal behavior. For you, Inspector. Rumors, but it appears that clear the red. Rose was captivated. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So this Agnes, Nicholas's aunt, that had a lot of affection for the old charming old lady who Tom, not surprising problems. Nicholas had only one desire, to marry off his daughter. Believe that he found enough and sped things up by certainly bad character, but sometimes he knew to play the gentleman. Gesture was surprising, but it was better last little like Rockford Church and destroyed a large part of the bell tower. Decided to give the required funds for its restoration. Thank you again. Back bar. There. Have got for us there. There, except the fiance was sulked for a good week. Should have seen face inspector. Fabiani needed some money to restore the bell tower. Therefore, he organized a charity event in order to call upon the clock. Doesn't know. Thank you note. Necklace belonged to Agnes, who gave it to Daphne. Her present. After Becca took care of them, but they were worthless because of Agnes. Agnes is Nick's aunt. Maybe this trick of saving after every move of the clock is actually keeping us from hitting that bug. So, hall. There. Talk to this guy. Then your dick. Talked about himself first. Grew up on the street, first in the orphanage and then the foreign legion. Becca's and relationship story. Logan is a first-class scoundrel, if you ask me. Difficult. Happy. Well, they want you better off in the army. They ran out of engagement. advise him that he's a gambler. And it's pretty nice. I don't want to think about the invitation, but finds it strange that she's there. Got the box, she stopped arguing. It serves well, doesn't it? I think. I will finish this Ponder one way or another. We will keep at this until it's done. We've had it with this game. A good game, but having to restart it over and over isn't fun. Enjoy the rest of your night and you sleep well. Stopping by. Up as well. Doesn't terribly infatuated with a butler. Look at Jagger, yeah, that's a good point. Most of the necklace is Daphne, she never goes anywhere without it. That Agnes gave it to her. Else does he discuss Agnes with him? This was my mother, or that's what I'm told, as you know. This is the first time that we learn that Agnes, rich old aunt, is actually legitimate son. Give the most of her inheritance. Interesting. Go to Daphne's cabin. I think his diet is mainly booze and cigarettes. Although it really can't be lived this long. Must have, at least for bits of his life, led a decently healthy lifestyle. Something in the closet we will take. The other one. Perhaps it is the other one. Quite finished, there's something here as well. Mathematics is here. Description there. It's incomprehensible medical gibberish. Description long. I think that's Agnes's prescription of drugs. Bar. save stage game. Yeah. Finally, no one is in the bar, so we can pick this glass bottle as well. $11. Save. 12 actually. 12 p.m. in the game. Now we go to the upper deck where we will find Susan again out of bed. Slightly recovered. How did we do this again? Talk to Okay. Nice of you, Inspector. Yeah, have a little pick me up. Yeah. Chat. Been through all of this. This. Talked about the charity event. That's an other collect. This times Dick is a very charming person. Looks very nice, doesn't he? Yeah. Some medicine for Agnes, the old lady, very ill. Agnes was obviously an old lady, but she had an iron constitution. Illness struck her down with one. Mr. Hospital. That's the first hear about. Smoking. Dog. Again. Beckenheim. High esteem. Health. Success. Father's Sandalwood. Without his parents' money. Just came up empty handed because his daughter categorically refused and stuff. So Considerable, very considerable. Certainly, I remember charity event too. Bio treatment. Last one was buried 6 months ago yet. Sick. Oh. Don't be mistaken, Inspector Nicholas gave. Necklace belonged to Agnes Daphne. Birthday. Isn't very happy that cheat. Very serious. Don't think that Nicholas ever held out much hope, but he still put her up. Family. Nicholas put up his aunt during several months. Care of her. Left a very will. About a will. Had to back. Outside bow again. Part 2. Father puppy. About the will. GG, you say? I'm just following my own written notes on how to proceed with the game. Better see. Here. Here. Certainly, but it was not a big success. A lie. Lie. Why are you lying to us? Why were lies? Nicholas certainly had a bad character, but sometimes he knew. Hey, the gentleman. Doesn't. Agnes Nicholas' aunt later had a lot of affection for lady. Charming old lady always. Yes. Exemplary Christian. Didn't have luck when Lale got called for her. Left us 3 months ago, leaving watcher of the fortune in better. She all of it was son and the rest went to tragic error of youth. Inspector Agnes was 20 years. One day she decided to take piano lessons and had to happened. Family scandal. Agnes' father threw old youngster out of his house and locked up his daughter. Worst was done, and 9 months later the first unit was born. It was placed in an orphanage, and Agnes sick with migraine. Way unconfident. There you are, Inspector. This is Agnes' sad story. Agnes' son grew up only recently. came upon a trail. Mark, Dick's mark. Passes. Time passes. Then cave option has disappeared again. But oh, back. It's been usually persistent. This little thing. Notice that during the cutscenes and when you're in rooms, you can't save. Wonder if that code that removes the save option and gets for some reason permanently disabled and doesn't get enabled. It hasn't happened yet, but then again we've saved basically every something happened. Now we need to look through that porthole because we need to see Rebecca, the old man's wife, arguing with the solicitor. How can you think that I'm going to stand for this? Come on, Rebecca, my dear, after this, all this, your son, my foot. But he saw the will, he didn't even know his real family existed. Think that this imbecile inherited everything, I will kill him. Here you don't saying. Anyway, here's someone. Here it might be the glue stick of an inspector. We'll see the glue stick. Shouldn't be calling people names. It's not nice. Now we go back. Daphne's cabin. This time it's the right wardrobe that we need to search. I think something here. Rushing through the laundry pile, you find an envelope. On 14th, 12 automobile accident. Last night, a tragic accident occurred on a little country road. Driver, a young woman, ran head-on into a tree, causing her death. Her husband, Nicholas Karabucci, an important businessman, announced this morning that he will file charges against the automobile. What thickens? Of here. Finally get in. Father Fabian's cabin at this point. Number. Wardrobes is something that we move. Watch down there. I'm save. Yes. It's 1 p.m. already. Perhaps we need to know what time it is. Always good to have a watch. Not sure whether it was revealed in the part that we've already played through why it is that we took this watch, but found this watch and I wrote it down and it passed the time. We were supposed to take the watch. Becca's cabin. Rebecca, let's go through her. She and Tom hold each other in high esteem. Tom was taking care of Nick's business. Difficulties. Marriage. He was a very nice young man, maybe a little spineless, but he will certainly be ideal. Daphne. Passion for car racing. Last year, his father offered him a stable of cars. Led to a family fortune. Time he started father's affairs. Waiting for Daphne is sometimes hard to understand. I feel like permanently rebelling against whatever her father stands for. Is Nicholas's new wife, widow, get along with Daphne Brown. Good father Fabiani, let me tell you that better would place. Young ones took part in the charity event. Susan and Fabiani have common. But Susan has been with her family for a time. Oh, she got herself invited the old busybody. Really get along, but I sympathize with Chris that it's difficult to grow up with Susan. Didn't stay along at the hospital. Better of the worst kind. Nicholas were often fighting. They're about illness. Nick is a strange fellow, Inspector. I don't like all. Sweet inheritance. There is a very efficient servant. Nicholas's pocket watch. What is Nicholas's pocket watch to father's cabinet? Know anything about the ink? Death. Necklace belonged to Daphne. I can't understand how she dare wear something so ugly, but Daphne is sentimental. Gave it to her. Medicine. I had prepared everything for Daphne and Julio's engagement when I this. Agnes, she was Nicholas's aunt. She was a bad-tempered old woman. Spent her time complaining when it fell. I didn't her stay at her house. Mentioning better to stay at her house was terrible. She complained 24 hours a day. Nick waited on her hand and foot. Right if the attentiveness. Agnes died baby to go. Old bitch after done for her. Agnes never told us she had a son. What's really surprising is that Nicholas certainly knew about him, never told. Hopeful, right? Upper deck. and have a little chat with his wife. But he continue, I think, my husband, attentive and loving man, a lie. Told her about the financial difficulties. That's marriage is ideal. That's a third lie. He was rather naive. So are you. Nicholas Waters getting his tattoo self by announcing that wife. Daphne can't stand Rebecca, though they acknowledge each other. I believe they will stretch each other's eyes out. Let's just say that Rebecca isn't a very good person. Really irritating about her is that she puts on and her la-di-da manner. She five. Gambling for ages. I don't know if he will ever be a gambler. That Nick won't this. That as well. Belong to Nicholas. Much better. I wasn't aware of this, but now that you bring it up, yes, last night it must be 8 or 10. Came back from dinner and I protected to get some fresh air. Already dark. See me. I was in a dark corner. Nicholas and Father Fabiani arrived just a few minutes after me, speaking very softly, but I could see right away that they were arguing. Really. Gave it to her as a souvenir. Terrible accident. Daphne was at the boarding school. Straight out of Daphne. Close. Accommodated Agnes at his house for almost 6 months. Like this, he waited on. By this efforts, the highly true. Time passes. We shall save. Back to cabin. Talk with Daphne. First time. Doesn't care about Rebecca or Tom's relationship. Because of my business. Everyone has their own worries. It's better you don't have to fuss about. Fuck. A brave fellow, he's nice, but he gets on my nerves. Because of a father who family, put it this way, his family is wealthy as far as he father. Talk about the engagement party. Becca's an ambitious and impatient woman. She did everything to father and get him up the aisle. Happened very quickly, and I wasn't invited for the ceremony. Gone. Becca's flighty and selfish. On top of that, look the way she carries herself. For Rose, I have the impression that she doesn't have a happy marriage. The worst that could happen to her after the grief. Doesn't pay much attention to his wife. He dedicates all his time to business. It's not time to. Always known Father Fabiani had an excellent relationship with my family. I saw the damage was considerable. The lightning struck the bell tower. I and myself worked like slaves for an entire day to get everything ready for the charity event. Friends sometimes criticize me also if Dan is a very good friend. Kind of father didn't like Susanne at all, but I'm glad he invited her anyway. Dan's health is very delicate. The poor thing must have already been hospitalized several times. Dan is not the type to refuse a drink, but I don't drink the alcoholic. Dick is a strange fellow. Sometimes I feel I've always known him, yet I've only known for a month. Dick inherited Aunt Agnes's entire fortune. The day the will was read, Dick and Rebecca violently argued about the money. Rebecca was furious. My father had to intervene to prevent her from striking Dick. A while later, my father went to Dick to apologize and invited him on board to try to make up for it. On to my father, I have no idea where he got it, but he was proud of it. Belongs to me, Inspector. It was a present from my Aunt Agnes and me. Agnes is my dad's aunt, but I felt closer to her than I did to my father. She's ill. To let us take care of her. She was scared stiff of doctors. Died of a heart attack. My father was the middleman between the doctor and my aunt, and what my father was giving her. We shall save. Yes. Well, it went too far. My little friend. Chat with Leon. Be due to a real estate transaction that failed. Offered earlier. I believe that this would have been the most beautiful day. Unfortunately, I definitely want to think a little bit more before getting engaged. Darling. Thank you very much. Very protective. Becca's not Daphne's mama. bossy. That's it. But as I remember, I never worked as much in my life, but El Padre looked happy, and I think he invested a large amount of money. Thing is that father doesn't seem to think it was much of a success, but both Daphne, which that's strange. Much happy, grand fortune. Eyes were gleaming at the beginning, looking at everything. By a little. Watch it again. Drop. Late all night. Eyes were gleaming. Quickly changed, then bet everything. Right. Daphne's. So it didn't go without problems. Stay home, but as Daniel Karabujan by accepting. Come again. Go far. Once again. Thus far. Up to Sam. Again. And by Rose is very lonely. As far as I can see, her husband doesn't care about her. You hide it very well, but I fear there's something going on between. So you do. She's an idiot. Really thought that Nicholas and Rebecca were perfect for each other, same ambition, rightfully attitude. Rebecca is just an adventurous, determined, and he's exactly what sincerely. But Daphne doesn't like her stepmother. Her friend. Rose is a very sweet girl and without a doubt very vulnerable. Rose was very affected by a law affair. She don't know much more. Affected the pearl girl really have any luck to have fallen upon. Um, He also charity class. Enough money not to be worried for the rest of his life. Pocket watch. Car accident, a very sad end. Just Agnes portal dear child. Everyone loves Agnes, her death affected us all. She died leaving considerable fortune. I assure you that even the reading the will, certain people rejoicing over their windfall. Dining room. Some reason the priest always seems to be. Was captivated by Tom. When the right boy appeared in her life, she lost her head. Whether he liked it or not, Rose's father finally gave his consent to their marriage, maybe with the hope that his daughter would forget being a child. Her previous love affair married Tom started going out, drive to run. Advantage. 5. Never thought that Nicholas would remarry when he says to Rebecca. We were surprised. Done very fast. The civil ceremony, a few halted. Vicious. Relationship. Daphne, there isn't any. But simply they ignore each other. It's better this way. That's their own mind. That Daphne would tolerate Rebecca's character. Rebecca is an ambitious and arrogant woman. She's ready to do anything that she wants. Daphne's gasp before meeting Lambert. Only a few days after the engagement, Raphael was found in a brothel, dead drunk with a creature virtue. Hatching the scandal, Rose's father, Solicitor Melvin, got rid of the swine, but Rose never got over his deception. First wife, Mercedes, and Nick, perfect couple. this. This doesn't belong to him. Terribly hard times for Nicholas. I thought he would never get over it. He was a man. There article about his wife's death. Gained from this. Ladies was an admirable woman, expected her sweetness and gentleness contrasted strongly with character. Never understood how such opposites got along. This was decimated by her death. Tragedy. Just gave her the car for the 6th wedding of an anniversary. I think he still regrets it. Fully responsible for death. Better than dead. Thornhill. I'll save. Back to his office. Butler. First chance to him. He thinks the problems with their marriage stem from the fact that there are no problems with their marriage. And there's no saint. He courts every pretty lady around him, but he's paying more attention to his business than pretty women. Young man from a good family, you think partner from Daphne. Ladyship is a very strong-headed woman. The matter ladyship at the reception at an embassy in Paris. Ladyship was very charming. And to another, they were married later. Want to pay attention, Inspector Madam is very impulsive. Putin very charismatic, but perfect housewife. I sometimes regret the master's first wife, Daphne's here with her com. Logan is strange enough under her fragile exterior. I suspect she's a very strong woman. Marriage is not a success. Father Fabiani is a brave man. You can see you heard about Father Fabiani lost everything that night. Poker game. He was furious. He lost it the next day, and I could tell they had a question. Father, totally desperate, tried to pressure the master into reimbursing him, but the master refused. Honestly, one father left. Father Fabiani looking for money. He organized a small charity event followed by an auction. I'm so hard and one does what one can to raise a little money, but in my opinion, the father is not ready to repair the bell tower. Master has been very generous, and the father ended up collecting money. In the blood, he says. Sadie's was a very beautiful woman. She and the master met a stunning couple. Daphne's other couple. Engagement party, despite the fact that her parents arranged everything to perfection, the mother was appointed. Fighter, very sweet. Yeah. Plum is a courageous woman and reliable. Fabian insisted in having Miss Plum invited on. Frankly speaking, I wasn't enthusiastic about the idea. Accepted in order to the father. Doesn't handle herself very well in society. Some alcohol destroy her. Rich man. Started working past around 20 years ago. At that time, I had a few runs with law and I couldn't find a job. Accepted instantly. With a huge foolishness, I was seeing a young waitress. She let me on. I was young and hot. Had to be hospitalized and I went to prison. Met the master while out on a weekend pass with friends. Master supported me through my hard times in prison on earth. Agnes was always good to him. Anthony loved her very much. Very ill. After he felt she would be better cared for at his manor, the most that his aunt stay with him. Living alone, she readily accepted. That's not quite what we've been told before. Told she had been very hesitant. Master was at the beck and call of his aunt. He did everything but stay at the manor pleasant. Past despite his efforts, her cared very much for his aunt and suffered death. Obviously, a lot of things that could issue. For her wedding anniversary, the master gave her a car. He personally chose the model. The accident happened a few weeks later. The master. Plus, she was killed in a car accident when Miss Daphne was 5 years old. Fine. Time passes. Now, we shall say more. We'll head to the upper deck. Probably back here. On advertisement, but who has given you permission to look through the purse? Better not, gentlemen. Better speak about. That's interesting, isn't it? Talk about any of anything past. Sort of have to go through every topic with every character every time. Constantly hopping in this to discover more. You know, not so much past, especially. Hector was Nicholas's shadow. He stuck to Nicholas. Experienced this type of relationship before. They were friendship. Got bar. I was looking for a gift for my husband for our wedding anniversary, as you know. That's terrible accident. Daphne was at boarding school. That's your story, and you're sticking to. Daphne. Now, PM. Getting there. The game. Go to her cabin. We need it. Of it. But he doesn't like soap. Stop closing the damn door. Better in the say. This money doesn't mean anything to you. Destiny's find and why. One day a man brought sum of money to accompany one of his friends, followed him issues. Over that the young man I had to take care of was I arrived, he had already drank quite a lot the night. Happy nature joined him and partied all night. In the early morning the same man turned up with 2 cups and grabbed Raphael every name under the sun. It wasn't until a few days later that Raphael had left town, chased by his future father-in-law, and that he engaged to you. Now that you know the whole truth, I hope you forgive me for all the harm that I've done to you. And that came to me, called himself Karabuchan. Forgotten about this little plot twist. That Karabuchan this relationship that Rose had with Peppers. Upper deck. Again. More. Overboard. Life belt. Guild. Dan who has been finally fished from covers. That guardrail has been brought through an accident, but further. What? Dickens. ID. The person I would have suspected is dead. He's a letter from Agnes. Brought into. My dear Susanna, excuse me, my dear friends, for taking so long to respond to your letter. Despite my nephew, Ulysses' intense care, my health getting poorer every day. You busy. Sometimes I'm sick. Sort of expected that. Enough about me. Do you any etc. That Nicholas accommodated Agnes to get hold of her fortune. Agnes was in excellent health. She started having pains on that very day. Okay, so she poisoned her. I made it the point that Father Fati only got invited by Nicholas. I wanted to take advantage. Carry on my investigation, but now that it's not worth it, is it? Oh, no, I think it's better. Would you mind going to my cabin and bringing my cosmetic cases? Sure. Is it? Taking place. Search one of the many places in here. What? Fuck. Happen. Box here on the this little key in the box. This. Examine it again, probably. Ah, yes. We started here. Lock the ballerina, you can hear a clicking sound. I think that happened when we locked the ballerina. Because of- clicking. Ah, finally have this letter. Not this one. Or 1690. Was a little job you asked me to come by tonight to get my pay. When you 33. How to get it again. Bar again. Quickly inspect that there's something going on. Come on, Rebecca, don't be a child. We'll work it out. Have to blow your head off. Oh, don't shoot. Shot. Shot, Daphne. No, murder prevented. Take her purse. Save. We're getting somewhere in this game. Handbag. Doesn't want to touch it because he's a gentleman. He has no problem taking a pocket watch, but comes to searching purse. It's out of his. How we go. Daphne's happen. Give her purse. Back up. Right there, that's nice. Have iron guts. Father will come getting on Agnes. Thomas now solicitor Melvit's partner, Rose's father. You can bet that he'll end up owning the business. Rose is very discreet about the subject. It was a few years ago that she had a lot of her and took herself back together. Guy. Papiani seems satisfied with the earnings. That is interesting. Thus, Dan spoke to me about this touchy subject. She died from natural causes. Because of this, that she did everything how to get invited on board. She was going to take advantage of this cruise occasion to check her suspicions. Think it wise to tell me this before, Daphne? Didn't want to talk to me without having evidence, but you don't affected my father. Five years old. Boarding school when she heard the news. covered everything. It's the subject. Day of the reading of the will, my father and Rebecca were found screwed up in solicitor's Melville's office. Karabujan, Mrs. Karabujan, you are called here today in order to hear the last will and testament of your... I read that which... So fond of money. He's the magical, magnificent horn of plenty that was given to me by his mother, as well as the sum of 2,000 station for expensive stay at his home. Rest of my fortune to my dict. Shame. Doesn't have the right. I won't let it happen. My cousin. Oh, very, very interesting. Okay. Okay. Now we've talked with her pretty much. Apparently. On. Okay. Now it's time. So now I need to talk to everyone again. Yes. Start from the beginning. Goes right there. Fold into this cabinet. For your time, Inspector. Tell you won't. Service. Well, I know who killed poor Nicholas. Continue, sir. Bothers me very much. Dan is a very good friend, but I can't keep the secret any longer. Certainly know that Suzanne has affection for Agnes. Dan is he insisted invited on board to take revenge. But I didn't know anything better. How would I have known that she would take the advantage of this Nicholas? Other than help my better believe me, I have nothing to all blame each other, no doubt. Okay. Not like this guy, Inspector. He gives me good prompts in case he and Sally have a chance to get along well. Sally could never go anywhere without this butler. This cutscene. Or times, in fact. Right. Death and will and son. Yeah, he's the one that told us that she had to go there. Bolt. There. Of course she does. Better what I have to tell you must stay between the two of us. I promise I'll discreet. Rose. Yes, killed my husband. At the best reason. Oh really, what do you mean? Lambert, do you know him? Ex-fiancé. Well, Inspector, you should know that it was Nicholas who took care of getting rid of him. Because he did it upon the request of Rose's father, Melville. Found out and since then get back at Nick. Third Inspector, she bought a gun. This was killed with an... Never mind that, Inspector, she probably other method. Good, thank you so much, Rebecca, I think. Third Inspector role. Yeah, there was good reason to hate the old man. He was... Entered the bathroom. Oh. Here. Like, keep to yourself what I'm going to tell you. But of course, really delicate subject and concerns the relationship between and then Rebecca. Got it? Tom is a prior. Of course, go ahead. This was all Rebecca's fault. Tom is easily looked everything up. Cool. What do you mean? Last night, back on the deck. Look for it. Passing the carapace cabin. Back on Tom, we're leaving. As if they're arguing. Then Tom approached the guardrail. It's something overboard. I didn't know what it was, but now I have to believe Tom has trust them, Inspector. Quite possibly. Before I do, certainly are not people with a motive. Right. Let's go to the upper deck once more. I don't want to examine the lamp. I want deck. Here. Let's use map a bit. See who's where. We've been all over this place. So, laundry room. Laundry. Edit. Can't get into the kitchen, that's right. The cook doesn't want it there. Smoking lounge. Suzanne. Yeah, it doesn't really. That it seems. It's a cruise from the cops. Yes, it is. Welcome in, Amiga Gamer. Daphne. Her theory is my father, Inspector. It was father of Daphne. Accusation. Certain of what I'm saying, the father gathered a substantial amount. Lost everything to the poker game with your father. But never mind. All that matters is that day after this famous poker game, Father Fabiani came to the house to speak to my father. He threatened to kill him if I back the money to make it better. I assure you, yesterday Father Fabiani had a meeting with my father and they're not asked him in the corridor. I know. Getting some strange object in his pocket. Surely the murder weapon. Explanation. DB Inspector Money and gambling have made them more than one person lose their head. here. Something that I forgot here. Now Rose has opened up. Do not want to discuss this. Okay. Talk to Dick as well. There. Two, I have something to hide. But I'm for them speaking whispers. None of my business, but if I saw my wife on the arm of a guy running a weapon of this kind, wouldn't you? Thinks that Tom is the killer. Okay. Cabin. Something to find. Yeah, it's been ages since I played this. I pretty much gave up on the Wednesday streams during this winter because my wife was at school and she always had her schoolwork on Wednesdays. Kept having to restart because of this save game bug. Wow. Started this game again so many times that I can barely count. This time again we started from scratch and we're basically going to finish it. Let's say there should be something on the board here. Please come quickly as I have something to tell you happened. But here, the snow. Hector then. At this point we're start with isn't. Quick corpse. Murder. Okay. Wait. Kitchen. There. This is dining room. This. Get into. Okay. Possible to get up. Bolted to the floor. Okay. Bar. Boxes. Ah. Can filled with hand grenades. Just to save. It to save after each and every progression of time. Well, right. What? It. A reel of film. Done here. It's 450 now. Let us save. Yes. Able to go. Engine room. There's some crowbar. Take. I will have her. Box. Absurd. Abst. Save. And yes. Smoking lounge. Here. What? You already put it there. Turn it on. For have the screwdriver. The damn thing. Take out the. That here. First off. Okay. The switch does something. Okay. Close it. We can start it up. The hell did that tell us? What the hell did that just tell us? about as far into the game as we can. What thickens? There. Does any of what has happened with him, however. So immediately nothing to have been added this. Daphne. Better have a note stand from become quick, I know how to R first. Please. Exactly. Back to then. Healed Suzanne. It shows NK are carved into the ground. Nicholas Karabujan. 5. No, it's pretty much very little in the way of pixel hunting in this game. Mostly bothered us is not being able to save consistently. That's been a major hassle. think we've started it up 3 or 4 times already. Actually, I haven't been able to go into the cabinet before, ever. Think. Coal and boiler. And stories. 2. Complete history. Rapuchan's technical manual. Is supposed You're supposed to find this. We've never been able to go into this room before. It's an in car. I need to Google word. Insal. Really doesn't tell me much, but shows us go. Actually, office there. I think this is actually how we ended up that last time. Messing about in this area, but that was before we found all of this. Although I can't be sure, my notes basically stopped when it was roughly 5 o'clock. I'm pretty sure this is as far into the game as we've been. We just stumbled by pure luck into basically space over here. Like a door. I think. Plenty of things. Yet. Curious, right? Yeah. I think this is also how we died last time. The difference being that this time around we actually have working safe. At least I hope we do. Door. That's nice. Difference being able to save in a computer game make. Okay, so obviously we can't just have this here. Plank. Crowbar. Use. Use. Come on. Think for us. There's obviously a door. Okay. Nothing in there. Can't interact with this at all. Like seems very little. Drunk. Fuck. Station. Shelf. Oh. Oh, okay. That's what the word install is for, although I'm sure supposed to be in Well, I'd forgotten about this. We found this when we were playing it for the first time. Found this bookshelf. And we had no letters were either. Does something. There's a door and I opened up. Confirm this choice. God, Karabucha and I found both of you. Played a dirty low down trick on the Godfather, yet the Godfather friend. But shut up, Karabucha. Wait, the Godfather. Now you're here. I can't get at my inventory. Failed. The killer was stronger than you this time. Three. Hey there, brother Bill. Welcome in. Does anyone want to go look up exactly what it is that I need to do here now so we can complete this silly game? Obviously need some item or we need to do something with that door before we can complete it. There we go. I think. I'm going to Google this. I want to finish this game. Blah. 5 p.m. Go to the smoking lounge. Pull the pill projector. There. All. Look, the orange book. Yeah, we found that. Description to the top toilet to take the soap from the wash basin. Never have figured. Would have taken us a long time to figure. Perfect sense to go into the toilet at this point. Find some bar of soap. I did search both of the toilets at the time. I don't remember finding any soap, but I'd have just missed it. But at the end of this game, Brother Bill played it through like 3 times because the game wouldn't allow us to save sometimes. Right at the bitter end. Not in this one, at least. Might as well. Let's Okay, let me just say that we would never have been able to spot this. Not even easy to find. Pretty sure I searched both of these rooms playing this game without taking notes, anything. So this part of so there. Possible to see. I'm sorry when I said this wasn't very praised this game for not use about hiding things in a single pixel. Just as bad. Save. How the game has reached this famous stage where you can't save. As we went out of the exact order in which to do things. You throw the soap. Dumbest thing. Okay. There's the mafioso. You hear a mafia contract in the name of Karabuchan. Good God, this mafioso was supposed to begin to see the name Ostro. Puppet picture. get this off the platform. Puppet or see hiding somewhere top of that little case. Time passed, so we can't save. Thought about that right now. We must be pretty much at the end of the game. Question is, what is it that we do next? Can't talk to him about the puppet. Sam and the puppet. All the puppet show. Puppet or something. Not her, obviously. Show it to her. He's dead. Show it to her. Show it to you. Puppet. Either. Father's not there. Here. There either. Okay, that's just the toilet. There. No one either. Where is everybody? Bar. Daphne. I don't want to show her. Show her the puppet. Again. My god, this puppet. Yes, I do remember now. Stormy night. Talk to me. Don't be a fool. What do you have to say to me in a new life together? Dad, father was on the ground dead, terrified and fled to my room. What? I woke up, I thought it was just a bad dream. Hey there, one Conker, welcome in. Did we get it on sale? Boom, boom. Very nice. Since that day, my father repelled me in an unexplainable manner. A few days later, they put me in a boarding school. Been dead for 40 years. So. Awful, Inspector. Inspector, I have come to warn you that the boat went to birth. I didn't know the boat was pregnant, so it represents a certain problem. Old Captain. Captain, will you call everyone together and I can now tell you who's the murderer? The murderer. Decision to reveal the name of the killer. But before I do that, first to recap the situation. Last night, I arrived on board when Hector came to warn me of death. I followed Hector to the office, but just when I was going to examine the corpse, someone hit me from behind like a coward. I remained unconscious for the entire night, and the next morning, when I woke up, there wasn't any trace left of Nicholas' body. You, the killer, Mr. Dick Smock. Oh. Oh. I didn't know I was supposed to. I was just clicking to continue, but apparently I was accusing him of murder. Can't be this guy. They call you Ostrovich, Dmitry Ostrovich. You're so cunning, Inspector, but believe me, you're far from knowing. This is a long story that goes back 17 years. At that time, I was a young, starving actor searching for fame and fortune. But we just stumbled onto the correct guy. This is the last guy I would possibly have expected to be the murderer. One night after a performance, a young lady came to see me. Hit it off immediately. That's when things started to go wrong. Mercedes was married to a very rich man and wouldn't leave him. Don't remember if it was her or myself who first came up with the idea, but we agreed there was only one solution, which was to eliminate Karabucha and her husband. Love required such action, and much later we finalized our plan. That night I entered the Karabucha's life and did a terrible deed. Never thought it would be so easy. Thanks to my acting abilities, the following day I managed to fool everyone close to the family. I now become Karabuchan. Plot thickens, Mr. Dick. We decided to move away and Mercedes put her young daughter Daphne in boarding school. New life began for me and I savored the luxury of my new situation. This lasted almost a year and it was a ghastly incident that brought me back to reality. Mercedes had her. Piece of news coincided with Hector's arrival, the latter, who I knew very well before I became Karabuchan, saw through my game and tried to blackmail me. He was a notorious criminal and wasn't surprised when I offered him a large sum of money to get rid of my unfaithful wife. Once Hector had accomplished his job, all I had to do was play the role of the distressed widower. Karabuchan had a colossal fortune and the passing years were devoted to spending it. I finished by draining every last penny. My back against the wall, I started to borrow and borrow more. That's when I remembered old Agnes, as rich as Donald Trump. After a brief encounter, I swiftly realized that I was her only heir, so all I have to do was to help the old lady along to the grave. Again, this proved to be easy. I moved Agnes into my house and treated her with special medication. The old lady swiftly succumbed. Then old Bag had a son whose existence she had never mentioned, and it was him who pulled the rug from under my feet. Gee, Inspector, this wasn't going to stop me to put my plan forward. I needed a scapegoat. You, by using someone who was part of the police, I would have the perfect witness to my real death. So you've killed a real Dick Smock, helped by your accomplice Hector, disguised yourself to make everyone believe you were him. And Hector came to get me in my room, and I found the body which I thought was Karabuchan. So I knocked you out before he could realize it wasn't. All that was left to do then was put the body in a secret hiding place, held by my faithful Hector, and wait for the right moment to throw Smock's corpse overboard. The day after Hector made like he was knocked out and you calmly took Dick's place. Yes, and everything would have run smoothly if that imbecile Sultan hadn't interfered. He ended up guessing who I was, so I had to get rid of her. But why Hector? Don't really believe that I was going to share the inheritance with Hector. Anyway, he was becoming too greedy. Occasion presented itself to get rid of him, and I took it. You rid yourself of him while at the same time he made accusations against the others. For a small decoy, this is why I left a few clues for you to find. Little key in my room, a receipt. Ah, yes, at the beginning I was aiming at Rebecca. You knew the things you can learn when you're someone else. Then this amused me, and as a game I started leading down other trails. Well, you certainly will be able to meditate a long while on the gross errors you have made. However, this can't fail. I've prepared everything. No crime is foolproof. Father Fabiani resigned from the Brotherhood to become a professional gambler. Daphne and Julio finally married each other and now living happily ever after. Rebecca didn't waste time finding herself a new husband, of course a very rich one. This time she made sure to find out about him first. When Tom divorced, Rose remarried and finally had the child she wanted so much. She named him Raphael. Tom, chased by Melville, gave himself to drink and became a tramp. Evidence found by Inspector Dosentier was overwhelming and Ostrowitz was sentenced to life in prison. Now Dosentier quit the police force a few months later. Did what? Became a private detective. Did. Setting things up for a sequel, aren't we? Which never arrived. Thanks for the GG, Bargain. Funny how this is in a completely different art style, the actual game. Okay, my question now is the following. Have a pretty late save. What if we blame someone else? Didn't even know it was on. Or weird. Save game stuff in this game is out of whack. We only see a very small part of our saved games now. Certainly not all of them. Can't really go back and check everyone. Very glad that we actually managed to complete the game before it screwed us over for the time. Absolutely about that bug in the game itself. This is an issue with WH. See all of them. Here, where we got the soap. Soap. Here. Absolutely see it. Like the save game. Soap. Here. This of course takes care of the mafiosi. I was standing right there. Up it is here. Examine it. Take it. Search the mafiosa. Still safe. How we can take it after we've see this. Pretty sure we had searched the mafia. Daphne. Smoking glass. This sets in place the final sequence of the game. Say right here. Curious happens if someone else, whether we get a different story, different ending. He remembers this, it makes more sense now. No one leaves the boat. Sure, this was just a house here at the text because I was reading the text. Came up, I didn't realize I was actually making. At the man. The revenge death you commit. game ends, but what, you don't get the old motorway, definitely began to have doubts. Then you option failure. It's time to get a different end. See what the story is behind all of these options. Get through this pretty quickly. Okay. Stormy night. This game has many saving graces, but it's also a bit weird. Said difficult. See this. Of it's cutscene. I don't know why I'm in Nintendo. I've done Nara. You might say so. Think underneath your intent. Lord, you have the soul of a murderer. It's really the dumbest option. He can't possibly have killed the guy. Basically the same ending. He isn't even much of a reason or telling me why he done it, but that's limit. It basically ends on 6:30. Up. Now this would have been a relatively likely culprit. Killed Nicholas to get rid of his brother's main benefit fortune. Story behind that either, but Tom was at least a likely suspect. Go through this once more. Fury that I haven't of me. Like a very done it. Doesn't really seem to be much behind the rest of them. The other two that remain are Father and the Rose, both of which have done it. I wanted to see if there was a different endings that I've seen. A lot of you still watching this, yes, but at least game. On is on not a lot of people on. Certainly not a lot of retro people on. Let's see. Team interested in watching. Yeah. We'll hit perfect spade with the raid. He's playing SNES. I'll set it up. Thanks for coming, guys. Might and Magic here tomorrow as per usual. See you guys.